A fierce battle begins between Jinwoo's army of shadows and the ice bears, and continuous slash of claws and swords are all noticeable through the fight. The shadow army keeps massacring the whole group of ice bears and they seem to be dominating, and the ice bears are having a tough time coping. Once the ice bears start having an upper hand, the magician comes out of nowhere to blast the heck out of them. As it begins with some kind of fireball in between its hands, it smiles visibly and casts a strong type of magic inside the hands. Once the spell is cast, the fire spreads into the air like a volcano. Jinwoo is impressed seeing the infantry with rapid regeneration. The strength of the shadow soldiers is already far beyond my expectation. It feels rather unbelievable as regeneration is almost comparable to immortality. Still, it does end up consuming a massive amount of mana to process, and the drop in mana is huge. Suddenly, a pair of red eyes appear, and the scarred face holds a biblical value to the environment. It seems that the one who is leading the ice bears has finally arrived and he is not kidding around. So, the leader has finally appeared, and it doesn't look that happy. The bear doesn't wait and starts clashing down on the shadow army, and they barely stand against it. My shadow soldiers are getting smashed in an instant, and the mana has also run out. Now, I cannot seem to regenerate more because of that. Igris, I call you. Igris appears beside Jinwoo, and he is ready after his master's affirmation. Igris slowly starts to get in front of his enemy, and he seems to be more prepared than ever. He holds the sword in his hand and doesn't take much time to rush in his enemy's direction with it. The bear leader is kind of spooked, but it knows that the clash is not dismissible and Igris targets the monster's face to slice its neck. Igris balances his body and as the monster is hurt, it begins to cry out in anger. It uses the anger as a tool and decides to strike Igris with its claws almost immediately while the blood pours out of its body. But Igris uses his flashing speed to land on the monster's hand and slashes the sword inside to punish it. As soon as Igris jumps with his sword in hand, blood starts to pour out like a fountain and the monster starts to scream like crazy once again. Igris then moves with his flashing speed once again and uses his sword, all while the monster tries to take a good look at him but manages to miss him. A moment later, blood begins to pour out of the monster's legs. Even Sung Jinwoo was not expecting to see something like this. He is literally flabbergasted. When Igris finishes creating his own kind of art on the monster's body, the whole thing looks rather unbelievable as the leader of the bears seems to have been carved out by Igris himself. This whole situation makes the monster even angrier, and it is not about to forgive Igris for what he has done. While Igris keeps his calm and stands ahead of the monster with his blade in hand, the bear's leader starts to scream at him with all its will. But it is not enough to make Igris back down. He raises his head and instantly rushes in its direction to slash the monster's head away from his body. The flying head of the monster slowly starts to come down, and the lifeless body of the monster falls down on the ground. Igris catches the monster's head and slowly walks toward his master. Even Jinwoo is astonished to see his credibility, and he knows it all too well that if Igris managed to use his sword back then, he wouldn't have been able to win the fight against him. There is no way to ignore the fact that, at my current level, we are really at an equal footing right now. Igris drops the head of the monster in front of his master, and bows down to pay respect to his commands. The whole environment is rather silent and grim as the dripping blood has covered the whole place. No, is Igris above me? At level 52, he is as confused as ever. Jinwoo holds the shoulder of his crowned soldier. You have done well, Igris. Jinwoo thinks of using the death of the monster to crown him as his next superior soldier. Time to turn him into my shadow soldier as well. Arise. Jinwoo successfully manages to extract the shadow of the bear leader. Slowly the soul of the monster begins to pour out of its lifeless body, and it finally gains the shape of its actual one. Jinwoo not only gains the souls of the bear leader's body but also his pawns at the same time by using his necromancer ability. As countless souls arise from the bodies, Jinwoo continues to look over them all. Finally, the soul of the bear leader rises in front of him to come face to face with its newfound master. Good. Jinwoo only praises his own creation for a second then becomes silent once again. Meanwhile, the bunch of higher-ups of the whole country keeps on arguing and discussing the matter right in their hands. Instead of solving the situation, Dong-Su starts to become a pain in the ass for his own benefit. So, how long has it been now? Been about 3 hours, but that is only scratching the surface. It means that it has already been 3 days inside. You have to throw away any hope of normal environment past the red gate. Starting from skin burning under the harsh sunlight to being pestered endlessly by poisonous bugs or skin rotting due to the severe cold, the weak ones will end up dying off first anyways. That makes me wonder, how many of them are still alive after all? Even if they adapt to the environment inside the place they are in, they have to secure food. They could try to attempt to feed off the monster's corpses, but the gate is too high level for low-tier hunters. As far as I can calculate, C-rank or lower hunters must be all dead by now. Oh god. That sounds miserable. So, you might also indicate that Sung Jinwoo must be dead by now. Did I just end up wasting my time in vain? I do not like to waste my time on useless things. No, wait. You are really saying that Sung Jinwoo is not part of the White Tiger Guild, right? Then how the heck did he manage to end up in there? Care to explain that? The whole group representing the White Tiger Guild falls silent. It is not like he doesn't make sense at all. Actually, he is an old acquaintance, and he asked me if he could take part in a C-rank raid, and I reluctantly decided to introduce him here. For some reason, Chief Han seems to be covering for Hunter Sung Ji-woo. Does that mean exposing Jin-Woo is really that problematic? Not to mention that S-rank Hwang Dong-soo himself came from overseas and also knows about this E-rank's existence. Hwang Dong-soo instantly rushes to Han to grab his throat to threaten him before anyone can notice. Then, it seems like there is nothing else I can do. I have been assuming that you would say something like this. For a long time, I have been talented in finding interesting situations and I can already feel something fishy in this situation. Now tell me the truth, what are you actually trying to hide? Dong-soo strengthens his fist even more to make Han struggle, and it starts to work. This angers Baek Yun-ho, so he himself decides to face Dong-soo. Hwang Dong-soo, I demand you take your hand off my employee. He grabs Dong-soo's hand to dismiss the situation ahead of him. Now, Baek Yun-ho, are you ordering me? Someone seems to be playing leader in the backyard. This angers Baek even more. He lightens up the whole place around them with his powers and Dong-soo releases Chief Han as he drops on the ground. What? Han notices that the situation is continuously growing into a dangerous one. No, I didn't expect this to happen. If this continues, both of the S ranks will end up fighting each other, and it is not ideal for a troubling time like this. At the same time, A-rank Hunter Kimchul is having a tough time breathing in the snow-filled place. His weapon and shield are broken apart, and he is barely breathing. The monster ahead of him is smashing his comrades into smithereens and chewing them up. Nothing stands in this place to support him as his whole crew is presumably dead. No way. I didn't expect something like this to happen. I, Kimchul, have failed. While he is really on the verge of losing all his hope to get out of this place alive, the snowy monsters are ripping apart his whole crew behind him. No way I'm able to see this head on. I am someone who will be one of the White Tiger's elites who is barely keeping up against his enemies. Save me, Captain. I have even received special coaching to become an elite. How have I failed myself in all the teachings? Food. Only if I can't accept this. If only I had food, I could have done something to redeem myself. But lack of food shouldn't be my fault. No. It is my responsibility as the captain. Right. I am no one but the captain. I am the captain. Kimchul is on the verge of losing his mind and even his last comrade drops down on the ground. It all ends in front of his eyes. Who is this? Huh. Hayaki. An elven soldier holding Bao comes straight in front of him, and he is not alone. Right after we faced a bunch of yetis, it is unbelievable. Kimchul realizes that he has no one else beside him and the only one person who is alive and standing next to him is lying on the ground, half dead, bleeding and battered. Captain. Before the man could utter another word out of his mouth, a sword gets thrown in his direction which eventually pierces the man through his skull. Blood splatters all over the ground and the snow is covered with it. Kimchul can't believe his eyes as he stares at the dead body. He is barely responding. His eyes look rather tired and frustrated. He is fearing for his life. He is out of words as he notices a Hayaki playing with the man's dead body with its sword. He fears reaches to the extent that he is unable to respond. Kimchul, who feared nothing till now and guided his crew this whole time, is now out of his minds. He screams his lungs out and decides to run away from the place to save his own skin. He knows what it is about to come for him if he stays in this place for even a mere more minute. At that moment, a Hayaki riding a superficial horse comes into the picture. Only his eyes can be seen as it is glowing, along with all the other soldiers behind him. Up next, the fearful A-rank hunter reaches the grove where Jinwoo diminished a bunch of ice bears on his own. He thinks it must have been the Hayaki's doing and runs away. On the other hand, the situation between the White Tiger Guild's old man and Dong-soo gets even more intense than before. If you want to know what happens next, keep it up with us. To support us, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So then, see you on the next one.